And we're back with our show with Space Tomato. Actually, we're gonna do this first. Hold on. With Space Tomato, Radar Ranger, and Ferrister, and we're gonna start this off by talking a little bit about the other major addition to Star Citizen, which is of course VR support.
He's diving in.
I actually can have a reason to use this now more often. I haven't used it much at all since I purchased it.
You use it yet?
Um,
have you used it yet?
You know, back in the dark ages.
Oh, have you used it yet in 4.5?
I had not. I'm planning on doing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I didn't ever get one because I knew I was going to end up not using it.
Yeah.
As well for a while. I was waiting for Star Citizen.
So what I'll say is this is a kind of our question and answer session, or our after dark section, where we get a little spicy and take questions from the chat. But before we do that, we're going to do a little bit of a preview because we need to do a standalone episode on VR, which we'll talk about next month. Andy asked me to do one on it. I'm like, yes, we'll do one, especially now we're getting more information about this. But Ferrister, have you had a chance to play it in VR?
No, I'm excited for other people. I have yet to try a VR headset that doesn't make me feel physically sick. So for me, it's not the direction of travel. But I've already got the full SimPit set up for my Star Citizen, so I'm just good for now.
So, any thoughts on it, just in general, like with it being supported in this this coming patch, at least experimentally? Like, it's a good idea.
I think it's cool. I don't want to say too much because I actually watched a Space Tomato video about this, and I don't want to steal all his talking points. I think there's a couple of things that I think is really cool. I think first is it's basically been a passion project by somebody, which I think is awesome. I think the CIG devs so often get a rough time from the community, but the fact that somebody can say, hey, it'd be cool if we did this, I'm going to kind of pick it up and make it happen, I think is awesome. I think the other thing that I like about it, even though it doesn't impact me personally, the other thing I like about it is I've been a backer for a long time. Probably not quite as long as you, Paul, but a long old time.
Probably same.
And I remember way back when, like, Star Citizen was, we are unashamedly a PC game. That means we're going to support high-end hardware. We're going to support weird peripherals that don't apply elsewhere. And for me, like, that's quite exciting to see that VR support, because it is one of those, like, things that is much more meaningful to PC players. And so I think for the people that have it, it's such a win. And I've heard good things about how it's playing.
I still remember the time where there was this footage. There's this footage still floats around of Chris Roberts with like two high-end sticks sitting on like a couch or like at a desk, like just moving the sticks around, wearing an Oculus Rift, as to show you it was just Chris talking about how, like, yeah, he would love to play with VR and get the full thing. So, Tomato, your thoughts on VR being added?
Well, seeing as how it's a feature that only affects 1% to 2% of the people in the community, I think it is a complete waste of time, and that CIG should be taken out of business. And they don't. No, I think I'm really proud of Sylvan, like Ferrister was saying, for like he's known for this. He had a Discord about VR. He has posted videos about VR. He's talked about VR. He's been on CIG's own videos talking about how he wants to get it going. And they mentioned a while ago that it would take Gen 12.
Yeah.
It would take the Vulkan API. And I'm genuinely amazed that, like, we're literally sitting here at the onset of multi-threading and the Vulkan API coming in. And I guess it was like the Vulkan API has been around, but now it's being forced, which is why this is something that's able to be implemented. But I'm just amazed it's happening so quick. Because the game, anybody that you told the game's getting VR, the first thing they would say is like, is it even good enough to be able to run on VR yet? And from what I'm hearing, it runs somewhat well if you've got a pretty powerful computer. So I think not only is it cool that it's starting now, I use eye tracking, and I don't think that this game is. I think it's built in a way that's meant to function like this, so that works well for it. But I also think that there are still not that many big killing games on VR. I'm not somebody who's had a VR headset, but I've personally been waiting until there were enough games to convince me. Star Citizen was a big one, and even you said you haven't used yours since the Dark Ages. Like a lot of people get a VR headset, use it for 1 or 2 games, and then don't really get to use it very much. And Star Citizen could be a really big showcase for this kind of tech. Elite Dangerous is cool. Can't walk around as much though.
No.
Being able to EVA and VR and like fly around ships
I mean-
and board ships like that's gonna be crazy.
Imagine doing engineering in VR. Like
Yeah.
everything is on
Fire!
everything is on fire. You're walking through the smoke, and you're trying to like put out fire as you're trying to like repair things and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really cool tech, and I think it could be actually big for Star Citizen, not just for the Star Citizen community, but I think the VR community will probably start seeing more people try Star Citizen out for that case. And I'm proud of them for continuing to hit these big milestones lately.
I do want to shout out Chachi Sanchez, who does who's a Texas Bar Citizen guy, Texas Star Citizen guy, who goes. He's gone way outside of Texas to do this before, but where he goes to Bar Citizen events and sets up a VR sim pit specifically so people can play in Arena Commander and see what it's like to be in a ship in VR in Star Citizen. He's been doing it for like 3-4 years now. I've
awesome.
known him, talked with him before. He's a really big supporter of this, so I'm sure he was thrilled by this announcement because he's been a really big proponent. Now, I had to leave Andy for last because Andy was the one who specifically was like, I want to do a VR one. And he literally those are VR glasses, right? The ones?
Yes, yeah, these are the big screen Beyond glasses. That was my little bit when we first started the show tonight. But these are really good because they're nice and small, especially compared to some of the traditional VR headsets. But I kind of want to reiterate what Space Tomato said. Sylvan is the man. I remember he posted years ago saying that he kind of wanted to work on this on his own time, or he wanted to bring it to Star Citizen, even if he had to do it on his own time. And he actually did exactly that. And so for somebody to have the passion to work there, do all your regular work and get Vulkan implemented and all that other stuff, and then work on VR on the side, that's major props. And I'm very grateful for it because, even on this show, I've been rambling on about how they need to get VR support in the game eventually, like the Trench Run game that they're looking to come out with, the Nyx. How can you not have VR for that type of game?
Yeah.
I think, VR in general has had a rough time trying to find a good niche game that would really justify its existence. Alex Half-Life, I haven't even played Alex Half-Life, but I heard a lot of great things about it. People say it's a really great example of a game that works well in VR. I think Star Citizen in general, the idea of it, living in an alternate universe, where you have planets and spaceships and FPS and these vast landscapes and giant spacescapes and all these other things that look cool enough. I mean, look how many screenshots people take in 2D. Mm-hmm. Imagine now, now we get the chance to put on a VR headset and walk through those environments. And that is just fucking nuts to me. It is, the implementation, they're very blatant about saying that it's an early experimental version of it. They basically just got the rendering part worked, and there's a lot of UI stuff that has to be straightened out still. But it looks phenomenal. It's just breathtaking to be able to stand on. There's a place on Nyx off to the back of the base, and there's a tall tower with a landing pad on it. And if you just land your ship there and stand there in FPS mode, you can look up at the asteroids above your head and you can hear them crackling in your headset. There's just some phenomenal experiences that you can get in Star Citizen that I don't think you could find in any other game. And I really do think, I was actually kind of surprised to see the amount of buzz that popped up in Reddit and Spectrum once they announced it. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of encouraging. I have to wonder how many people, you mentioned Space Tomato, that there's like, I don't know if you're kind of joking, but there's a small percentage of people who are VR enthusiasts. And I wonder how many people will actually go out and spend the money to get a VR headset because of this. And I know that, I know that there are people who've had VR and said they got into Star Citizen or they just started logging into Star Citizen because they announced VR support. So yeah, I'm really ecstatic about it. I really would like to see where it goes. It's even, even now with the technology as it is, we're just around the corner from having even better devices and stuff. So
Yeah,
I think this is perfectly timed with the
the new Valve headset.
what's it? Yeah, not the Index, whatever the new one is called.
Steam
The
frame.
frame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I have a as I showed off. I think it's one of the earliest versions you could get of the Oculus. The one that is now woefully old, but it's still useful. You can still do it. And someone in our chat says it requires resources, but the fact that Sylvan did it on his own. The question is, can it be supported on his own? All of the bugs and all the issues that kind of goes through. The one things that I can see the value being that now that it's in, because like Sylvan is like, we're doing the full thing. He's doing the full damn thing. He's doing
I want to
body tracking. Yeah. full support in Star Citizen for all of this, which is insane, honestly. If they can do it and they can support it, it will improve the game in a way that it's going to attract new players, but also get people to play it more frequently, I guess you could say. I do think that if they do it before Squadron and do a post-launch patch to add in VR support for Squadron, that would blow up. Because that was one of the selling points for Star Wars Squadrons, was that it was VR capable. But like you were stuck in a cockpit, and obviously Elite has it in there. But if it's like, hey, you can play this full campaign, full motion tracking with your headset.
That's crazy, dude.
For free update, because other games like require you to like buy a separate game that is a VR, like Fallout 4 VR, Fallout Skyrim VR, So
here's the scary question: if CIG needs to adjust their window because GTA 6 is coming out, do they spend the time to get VR working with Squadron?
No. I think it's one of those that would be a huge post-launch support. Like after it's released, and then like they can.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be. They shouldn't wade into that field right now.
No. But that's an example of like the technology is working in Star Citizen. It is workable in Squadron. In fact, it's easier to go from Star Citizen to Squadron than it is from Squadron to Star Citizen because you're removing the element of online stuff. So
better frame rates and everything.
Yeah. And you're not gonna have any problems with like frame rates in comparison. So I think it's a good start. We'll see if it's supported going forward. I love Sylvan's passion, but it's like there's passion and then there's passion to make something, and then it's like, okay, now I gotta fix it when it's broken, and that sucks. That's like waste disposal kind of job. It
does sound like the support for it in the company has grown over time, though.
Yes.
So I think it becoming more real is going to mean that there's a more willingness to support it and maintain it.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think they just gotta get through Squadron 42, and then after that, they'll probably see more dedication to it.
Well, whoever's listening to this, if you're at CIG and you're supporting it, send this to Sylvan and say, tell Chris that you could do a post-launch support for Squadron with VR, and that would be a system that would sell copies. Sell copies, especially if you're releasing 100%. This on Steam. Yeah, people would be like, wait, what? And they would buy.
It's a way to add another bump. It's another sales bump to that curve after they start to decline.
Yeah, a nice little
and
boost
also,
afterwards. Yeah.
When is it happening, by the way?
What?
When is that bump? Squadron coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my secondary message for them.
Yes, please. All right, we're gonna talk a little bit more. We're gonna take questions from the audience now. The earliest question was someone who asked a question as a joke because I did have this. I am glad some people recognized it because I found this at my at HEB, which is like kind of a Texas only grocery store. This was in their Christmas section, and I was like, "This is so stupid. I want it." So I got the stupid hat for you, chat, for you. And they asked a question: what gun would Space Texas Father Christmas carry? in for Star Citizen, it would be a Coda. There's no answer. There's no other response. A red Coda, and he would laugh. His belly would rumble like a bowl full of hydrogen fuel, as he gunned you down for being naughty. So, yeah. Big iron on his hip. That's all I gotta say. Parker XGPS asks, what kind of laundry detergent does Radar Ranger use? That's going to make no sense for people who watch this afterwards.
Right.
Just to add a little detail here. So I was trying to, the whole thing here was to try to make the guy who was stuck in VR for months on end.
Yeah.
And I ate, there's some ketchup here and some jelly. So I've definitely been eating well.
I had not heard of that, man. That makes that adds a lot more context.
Yes.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be obvious, but hey, I tried.
It's a good joke. Northern Tech Trooper asks, have you tried any VR in Star Citizen yet? And if you are, what's your impressions? We kind of went over that a little bit. You tried it already, right, Radar?
Yeah, absolutely a lot. Probably have the most hours in it. Close.
Yeah. What's your impressions just in general? Because we've already talked a little bit about how it is, but like now, how is it?
Yeah, it's fantastical. Like the visuals part of it is just phenomenal. There's clearly some, it's clearly an experimental thing, but there's like issues with labels and some of the markers and stuff, and that's just some technical issues, I think. Mm-hmm. But overall, like really, like being able to walk around in Idris or sitting in a cockpit, some of the detail in these ships is just over the top. Like there's one point that actually has dents in the metal and everything. You can see it, and a lot of them are details you might not otherwise pick up, but it just having that feeling of sitting in the cockpit, looking out, and even if you're flying over a planet, all of those kind of experiences are just like otherworldly. And being able to play a game like Star Citizen, have that kind of headset on there and go through those experiences, that's something else, really. I really do think that Star Citizen is like the game that VR was made for.
I feel like I've heard some comments from people who said that they didn't really understand the scale of Star Citizen until they got into VR, because you can really see the scale of like how big a Perseus is. You can hear 100 meters, and then you walk into a hangar with a Perseus,
right?
And you go,
yes.
I think honestly, I heard that about Elite
the hangar, like walking into the large hangars.
Yeah,
you really get a sense for how big they are.
Yeah,
I heard that about Elite Dangerous a lot, that it really changed the scale when you got to finally put the headset on. And I think for a lot of people like myself who haven't done VR, it's hard to imagine what exactly that means. But
you gotta try it.
I can't wait.
It is really something that will shock you.
It's a difference when you play in VR. The difference you experience, and it's bad scaling is a problem in VR, and it can get your brain all discombobbled. But if you are in a place that's really well scaled, if you've done something that's really well scaled, and you put on a VR headset, it really helps you see, like, it's a different experience because you're seeing it, not rather than looking at it. It's like replacing your eyes almost. So as you use your eyes as you would normally, you begin to see like, oh, that's how big that is. That's what this looks like. It's a different sort of depth of perception.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, the peripherals too. You're in it. You're not just looking at it.
Yeah.
Like one of the first things I noticed walking through an Idris was how low the ceilings are.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a regular Navy ship. Navy ships are very small and cramped like that by nature. So very good design. And props to all the artists who've done all the work on these things. It really shines through the VR.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you actually see the detail of what an artist has done, why a ship takes so long to make, that kind of stuff. So, Fair Straw, I'll ask you this for this first question. Blam Smith asked, what do you feel is missing from the engineering terminals?
Well, I think we touched on that during the podcast. I think there's, for me, a visual that shows where everybody is. I think, like Radar Ranger said, some sort of alternative way to be able to see where the components are. I think there's something in there around understanding what's going on. So, like, if there's like some toggle that you can switch that shows where the shields are currently strength and weak and where the weapons are pointing or whatever, just that you've got a little bit of situational awareness about what's happening with the ship. Those would probably be the bits for me.
Okay. Tomato. What could they add to the terminals?
The actual kiosk.
Yeah.
Shield info. It's huge. It's really hard to be on the terminal looking at the ship in battle and know that at any point you could, like, the ship could take one last hit, get through the shields, and suddenly your armor's taking a lot of ammo or a lot of damage. Your hull takes damage, your components take damage. All that can happen in like 10 seconds. So if you are the engineer and you get up from the kiosk, you don't know where your shields are in terms of going
that's an
down.
awesome
I think
point.
they
That's a very good
really
point.
need to get that on there. Besides that, I just think it needs to be cleaned up more. Probably more notifications and interactions, but maybe a little less cluttered. I'm not a big UI guy. I can definitely say when a UI looks
It's
nice,
bad.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what makes it good.
When it's good or bad, you can notice that it's good or bad, but you couldn't tell the other two. Yeah. Radar Ranger, your thoughts on what does it need?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, the list of the components might be really good to be able to get a quick situational awareness list of what's happening. I think better readability, I think, would be right, and absolutely, Space Tomatoes, the idea of having the shields in there, 100%, got to have that in there. You know what I would really love to see? They do have a bit of an issue where when you stand over those consoles, they have to show them in the perspective of the player, but in reality, it would be way better for the engineer if you could somehow make it take up more of the screen space. So you really have that entire screen front and center, so you can navigate it quickly and find what you need to get quickly. I think a bigger zoomed in view of things and maybe clearer fonts and a little bit of stuff like that. I mean, clearly the interface is in an early version and they wanted to get the functionality in there. Now that they have it in players' hands and they can kind of see what people like and don't like, it would be nice if they could kind of go back and make another pass on some of the UI and improve that part of it. Yeah, it'd be good to see if they can go through that. I know UI teams are hard to come by though at these days.
Yeah. A chair. I'm still sticking with that. Some ways to make it accessible to people who aren't at the kiosk, or some ways of like actually keeping you on the kiosk when things go wonky. But yeah.
A chair? You don't want that chair animation.
No, but I want to be able to like
Yeah, make the chair spin around too.
some
I think to your point, Radar Ranger, about having it full screen, like as soon as you get sat down in a chair, your perspective gets locked, so it's much easier to optimize that.
Okay.
Yeah, and also you don't get affected by the ship movements as much. So
there is one other thing that would be neat on some of the big capital ships, being able to have one of the stations up there work as engineering, just like it does on Star Trek.
Yes, that was my point.
Have Geordi
earlier,
come to the bridge so that he can work on things up there, or shit, I got to get down to engineering.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was my point in the last episode we did, the earlier parts of this episode we did, which is having engineering control from the bridge or from something that is a sit down other than the engineering console would be great. So
for some ships, though, I quite like that other ships don't have that, because especially on the smaller ships, you kind of just put the terminal where it fits.
Yeah,
right.
Also, Drake ships should not have seats. That feels like it's completely antithetical to the Drake design language. Drake should literally have a handbar, just like a loop.
Not even a pilot seat.
No. Yeah,
Nobody's down in a Drake ship.
Just an upside down bucket.
Yeah.
Just get rid of them.
Yes, like a soapbox, a literal soapbox that you sit down. You have to like pull up, to sit down on it or whatever.
I do
you
also.
seem like you had a big point. Yeah. What was your big point?
I don't know if somebody else said that, but a diagnostic screen on the engineering terminal as well, so you can actually scroll through the different things. I think that's kind of like what Radar was saying.
I saw somebody on Reddit did something that actually looked really cool. It was a very cool idea. It was like a schematic layout. So instead of seeing the wireframe diagram of where the components were located, it was more like a block diagram of the components and how it worked. And it was, much bigger representation for all the components. It was very creative. And I thought something like that would probably work too.
All right. Steve That Answer asks, how do each of you feel about ship destruction versus disable? How would you fix it? Radar?
I think just tuning from what they currently intend. the one thing that I struggle with a little bit is like, okay, if your ship is disabled and somebody launches a torpedo at you, you should just blow up. But you know, if someone shoots you and disables you and they're busy fighting other ships and they leave you alone, then yeah, I should be able to have the opportunity to go down there and fix whatever broke so I can get back in the game. So I think that answered the question. You know, they just being able to kind of clarify the path for going from one to the other, like not having you be completely disabled because you know you're I think not blowing up simply because your power plant is low or something like that. Like having some more logic behind the idea of blowing up versus not blowing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomato?
Yeah, I think the focus on time to disable is important. If anything, I just feel like it's they could at least try it just to see what happens. They could just try turning off ship destruction completely. I know there's a lot of problems there because like ships need to die for missions to complete.
Mhm.
Do the bounties actually need you to board the ship to kill the person now? Are they paying enough to justify that? There's like all kinds of knock-on questions that come up when ships stop exploding, but I do think they could at least see what it was like, because a lot of their messaging has been focused around this idea that ships would be more regularly disabled. This was why shipboarding would matter. This was why like people wouldn't maybe not gank you as much. I know that might be a little copium, but if people thought that they'd had to actually board your ship to kill you, they might not try to just randomly shoot you around Stanton for no reason anymore. That's a lot more work, a lot more risk for them.
Yep.
And all of those things were kind of based around this idea that ships just wouldn't really blow up as much anymore. So I think they like I'm more and more every day I'm like, you guys really should look at this and just consider it, or at least tell us why not.
Yeah.
That was what my question was about before, was like I don't think they've come out and just straight up said why they don't want to switch completely to time to disable. But I do partially think that Chris is somewhere in there just like shaking his head. No, he's like, it's not going to look cool. It's got to be cinematic.
Yeah.
There's got to be explosions.
My response to that is always, though, that it is really cinematic to see a damaged ship with like smoke coming out of it, sparks flying,
Yes.
and hearing the like creaking metal of it in disable.
Yes.
Like, that's Star Trek. That's Star Wars. That's Battlestar Galactica. That's Aliens. You know, like
I'll be honest with you. I have this vision in my head of a giant Idris, you know, with the lights flashing and it suddenly just starts to list.
yeah,
How cool would that be? We've seen that in big movies and big shows. It's got a good, you know, solid scientific trope backing. So
Yeah.
I hope that's where they go with it. That would be really cool.
there's an entire like I don't remember what, I think it's the end of Mobile Suit Gundam, but like there's an entire section of Gundam that's obsessed with it, because this happens multiple times in this in multiple series, where like it's basically an enemy mine situation but on a dead ship with people in EVA. So it's like one of those like classic tropes of science fiction of like, you're on a disabled ship, what do? You know? So there's an entire episode of Firefly about it, you know, Out of Gas, you know. Fairster, your thoughts on how do you feel about ship destruction versus disable, and how would you fix it?
I think I would treat player ships differently to NPC ships. So I would be quite happy to see NPC ships more likely to go boom, so that the people that want to see the big explosions can still go and see the big explosions. But for player ships, there's much more of an opportunity to intervene and to force the boarding situation we described. I think I would probably still err on the side of have it as a very rare event for player ships, but it'd be a very rare event for the power plant to go critical, and that still gives the crew an opportunity to prevent that should they wish to. But I would still have the explodey mechanic in there, and I'd also have the explodey mechanic for self-destruct, whether initiated by the crew or potentially initiated by boarders. I think that creates for some interesting gameplay, but I would have it much, much rarer than we currently see in the PTU.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that I'm leaning towards Space Tomato in the sense that like just turn it off ship destruction. Like I feel the way I would fix it is I would link ship destruction to wear and tear and health of the power plant. So the lower the wear and tear, the higher the chance it'll explode.
That's good. I like it.
So
And then
and then
it feels like the wear and tear goes up based on how often you do field repairs, right?
yes,
Right. Yes.
So
Get that one on the schedule somehow. That's great.
I'm also of the opinion that like wear and tear should be something that every time you get it repaired, the wear and tear reaches a certain cap. So kind of like how when you're injured, you get like a tier 3 injury, you can't fully heal until you repair the tier 3 injury. Like when you repair a component, it'll have a maximum health bonus or maximum wear and tear bonus of like 70. And so you can never return the wear and tear back up to its perfect. It'll
There's
always
a game
slowly...
that I just played that was like that. So that's kind of a common mechanic where it was exactly
It
that.
is.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
is a
remember
common
what game
mechanic.
it was.
Metro
Yeah.
Exodus does that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Maybe Ashes of Creation or something.
I know Zelda does it, the more recent ones. A lot of people don't like it because it means like, eventually you'll have to ditch it. But like there could be ways of improving that, maybe special repair tools or, you know, and as long as it's, in my opinion, as long as it's measured over time, so it's not super bad. And as a result, you can do field repairs and it'll get you going, but it's a trade-off. You can do the field repairs, but every time you do the field repairs, it means that the life expectancy of that thing is going to drop dramatically, and eventually you roll the wrong dice and it blows up.
Yeah.
There has
Awakening,
to be
that
some
was the
kind
game.
of
That was the
there
one I
has
was
to be
talking about.
disappearance of items.
Yeah. Eventually, there's going to be
do you
a
mean?
reason why you go to, Tomatoes discount ship store
100%.
and buy
We never
that,
discount, dude.
Yeah.
Top shelf.
the Tomatoes premium ship component store to buy the premium the preem size 1 power plant that's tier 5 or whatever.
Freeze-dried components.
It was a quality find in some dusty cave.
Yeah.
Promise it's top shelf though.
Top shelf. Spared no expense.
That actually you could probably use like getting high-grade materials to repair the durability.
Yeah.
It's like go to some planet, you have to get pure Karenite to get to improve the
God.
durability.
And that's see, like, that's the thing. It's my solution to the destruction versus disable is all of the other mechanics that CIG has yet to put in there, like crafting and base building and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
Captain Jacaro asks, what do you find to be the major pro and con of engineering in the different sizes of ships? I will start off with this one, and I'll say the major pro of engineering is that no matter what size ship or what type of ship you have, it will always benefit you to utilize engineering, but it does not punish you for doing so. Engineering does not feel like it's punishment in comparison to previous updates. It is the same sort of thing you experienced in 3 and 4.4. It only has new things that you can participate in to improve your experience. Being able to repair on the fly from the cockpit for smaller ships means you can get to limping where before you were just dead in the water.
Yep.
The cons of it is that when you have the small ships, individual ships, there is so limited interaction that you almost never have to. It's basically an oh shit button, a break in case of emergency situation, and then you have to remember to go back, and it adds one more thing to do while you're not actively using your ship. But also, for the larger ships, it means that there is more things you have to worry about, which means you have to have somebody on your board your ship to improve your chances overall. Having just one more person on a Connie could be the difference. Well, Connie doesn't really have engineering right now, but like one more person on a Corsair would be the difference between survival and a regen. Alt F4 versus actually keep playing. So.
I think that idea of the limited things that you can repair in a single seat fighter ship are maybe like the subliminal incentives as to why you'd want to play with a larger group on a bigger ship, because you don't have that restriction.
Well, it also adds more.
You're more vulnerable alone.
Adds more gameplay opportunities because maybe that's an upgrade path you can do. where now suddenly you
Right.
have more things you can repair on that single ship than you could before, but you have to go interact with another person who has the ability to craft that one repair system that you have to then install into your ship. So, Fairster, what do you find to be the major pro and con of engineering on different sizes of ships?
I think you've kind of touched upon a lot of it. I think having the system in place is better than not having the system in place, because if you want to engage with it, you can, and if you don't want to engage with it, you're not really in any worse a position you were in before, subject to balancing. I think for me, the pro is that potentially it scales to crew sizes and it scales to types of ship. So if you're flying a Gladius, there's probably not that much you need to think about from an engineering perspective. You might do some power tweaking, but probably not a lot on the fly, and you're kind of away and flying. But then there are some more interesting combat ships where you could potentially dip your toe in the water. Like the Guardian has a really cool little section where you've got all the component access and you've got the engineering terminal. So potentially when your Guardian is gone, actually it might not be gone. It might be rescuable. And likewise for the Intrepid, I think ships like the Intrepid, you're probably not going to be doing engineering most of the time, but it's the ship that might be your starter ship and home in the verse. And so it makes sense that you have the ability to also be going down the back of the ship and fixing things up, a bit like Han Solo was doing kind of maintenance on the Millennium Falcon. And then you get to the bigger ships where it's going to be a buff to have somebody on there and have somebody managing the situation. But it's not strictly necessary. If you've got a crew and you just got people in the turrets, it might be something that you touch here and there. I do hope that with the largest of ships, it becomes of critical importance to have somebody doing that. So when I say the largest of ships, I mean like an Idris. I really want to get to the point where you wouldn't really want to take out an Idris without somebody in that position. You'd fill it at the same time as you fill the turret gunners. I feel like in the current implementation, it's really not strictly necessary. So I think the pros for me are it gives more flexibility. You can scale to different crew sizes quite well. And I think the cons would be if you don't have somebody engaging with that, you're probably going to be at disadvantage for those that do. And if you really don't like the idea of your gameplay becoming more complicated, it is going to make things more complicated because you're going to have decisions to make about whether you stick with your ship or abandon it.
All right. Space Tomato, same question to you. How do you find to be the major pro and con of engineering the different sizes of ships?
To be honest, this might be a lazy cop-out answer. I think you guys have given a lot of information on this, but I think that the pros and cons are true across all ships because of the way that it increases depth. Like depth is both good and bad. And for every ship that this touches, I feel like it helps. It is a system that allows each one to emphasize its strengths. So if you have a ship that has, well, I was going to say, if you have a ship that has 3 shield generators, then, maybe not there. But like, if you have 2 power plants, if you have 2 life support systems, maybe you have your components spread out across the ship, maybe you have more armor or not, you're solo player focused, so you're in a smaller ship where you don't have to run around and you get the ability to just press a button to repair stuff. Like every class ship in its size is getting some specific benefit because of the deepening of its systems, from crew to what's it called, redundancy, to just in general lasting longer in combat. At least that's the goal of them. But they also get their cons in the same way. So a single seat fighter is now a little bit more scary to be in because you can't just get out of your seat and go fix stuff. You would have to EVA from the ship in the middle of trouble. Like you are more stuck. You do have problems because you can't repair your armor when you're out in the field, whereas a longer distance fighter maybe has space to have replacement components with it, so it doesn't have to worry as much about repairing that. Like big ships, now you got to deal more with fires, you got to run around more, but that's weighed against the pro of being able to actually repair the ship and keep it running. It all feels like it's just depth, and that's how I see it.
All right, Andy, your thoughts? The question was, how do you find to be the major pro and con of engineering on different sizes of ships?
I you know what? I just think in general, I think a good pro is the way it adds variables to the equation of strategy. You know, why do we pick a certain ship over another to do a certain task? Why do we choose to go in a single fighter ship as opposed to going in a larger ship with a group of friends or a group of other people or whatever? I think being able to, you know, throw that into the mix and understand why you have engineering and what you might need to do, and again the limitations of being in a single fighter ship, and knowing that if you get in combat and you get attacked, you're not going to really have that much of an opportunity to repair, and you could be out of the game. I think that's kind of good. I think that's what, by adding depth and complexity to the game in general, it gives people more options and makes your choices matter more. And I think that is a neat way to make up for the idea that the game doesn't have skills or levels and things like that. You know, it's one more piece of the puzzle. Cons, I don't know. I don't know if there's really any negative things to it.
Yeah, people.
It's all good times.
I think people just have to learn about it. That's the cons. But I mean, like, maybe because I'm a lifelong educator, so I'm just like, oh no, forcing me to learn something new about something I like. No, oh gosh, please stop. You know.
It's also crazy because we're learning it before the game's out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a side tangent, but like, there is going to be a situation where you pop in day one and you meet some random guy, and you have that grizzled veteran in a typical science fiction thing where, like, what's going on? It's like, oh fuck, we're in a mantis, caught in a mantis loop. What's a mantis loop? Oh shit. Okay. Well, kid, you're gonna do this and this and this and this, and then we're gonna get out of here. All right. And it's gonna be like, oh, okay, mister. You know, that kind of, like, we are the OGs, the Obi-Wans in this universe, and everyone else is going to be learning from us, which is kind of cool experience, I think. So
yeah, boy, how do you make a user's manual for all this stuff?
We'll find it.
You know, if
You
if
just
they're
throw
putting
them
out a
in.
game, I guess that's a good question. Like a new player, how do you really explain engineering to them, and engineering on a large ship versus a single fighter ship?
It's the same problem as every other gameplay loop has, though, and thankfully for us, it's the reason why we have YouTube channels, I suppose.
And hopefully, I think CIG is going to do like a 2-hour tutorial, like walled garden tutorial, where new players can learn how to play the game with a full story and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
so see if these got complicated. All right. I stopped accepting the questions because we had a lot, and we only have about we gotta wrap this up in about 30 minutes or so. So, so the next question comes from Parker XGPS, who asks, how much time would you like to see fleet type battles take up? How much is a raid? Ferrister, you did a lot of MMOs, right? Typically,
I would say, like, most of the raids I did would be up to about 3 hours.
Wow.
But I think, I think you need to just define what your fleet battle is going to be. So I would imagine, like, a good PvP engagement against some of the largest of ships with fighter wings and stuff, you'd probably be talking 20 or 30 minutes. When you talk about these, like, PvE type events, I think you've probably got multiple phases to that engagement. So the idea would be that you've kind of got the ship combat phase, that might be 20, 30 minutes. Then you might have to do some boarding and do some FPS combat, that might be a little bit longer. So I think it really depends on how you're defining fleet combat. But for me, I think a good battle with a lot of ships, a lot of complexity, people fixing up their ships, I would say 30 to 60 minutes would feel like that would be pretty epic.
I think yeah. Well, I could still see several hours, like 2 hours, for the sort of, like, again, it depends on the scale. Like, are we talking in PvE? Are we talking like a couple Idrises and some Perseuses and a Polaris? Or are we talking like you've got a full UEE strike group that you're backing up, and so you've got like PvE elements where you have to like defend groups and you have to attack, and how many, as you said, different stages. I think it can vary, but I wouldn't be surprised if CIG ends up with some of these major these major fleet ops being like 4 hours, with repairs and refueling and managing. So it really depends. Ranger, your thoughts? How long do you think these fleet ops should be?
I don't, honestly, I don't know how to change to say anything over and above what you guys just said, because it does matter on scale what you're trying to do with it. If it is PvE versus PvP, I mean, you can look at EVE Online for an example for other large scale battles, and they can go on for quite a while. And to Ferris's point, I think if you're doing PvE and there's multiple phases, yeah, there should be like a brief, 20-minute here and maybe a little gap, and then another 20 minutes for some of the other stuff. But it all depends. It really does depend. Like you said, I can't say it any better than you did. If you have this large scale battle where you've got huge fleets of ships that are trying to go in and achieve some kind of objective, you probably don't want that all over in 10 minutes, because I think there's gonna be a lot of disappointment and tears. But
well, it depends.
You
if it's in 10 minutes and it's an intense 10 minutes,
yeah, I guess it comes down to the challenge.
We're still talking about fleet battles, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
Yes.
Some people are not. I have not done a lot of raids in my time, but I know enough stories to know that some raids end within 10 minutes because people just do not anticipate what they're supposed to do, and they end it pretty badly.
Leroy Jenkins.
All I knew is you said this was after hours, and earlier you call yourself a space daddy, so I didn't know if we were off topic.
Yeah. Oh, we're still on topic. Oh God, I finally got that. Thank you. A little slow. Tomato. Last one for this one. How long do you think you will see fleet battles take?
Yeah, I think it depends on the size, to be honest, and like what we're talking about. Time-wise, I think a lot of your time, and this PvE versus PvP, a PvP fleet battle, you're going to spend a lot more time beforehand than during the battle doing your work, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's going to be the strategy and figuring out how to actually
and prep
go about it.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at these Nyx battles that they're bringing in, I think that's the kind of thing I would expect. I'm not going to go from when the battle starts, because that's not when Star Citizen starts. All right, let's start from the space station. Where you have to get all of your friends into a fleet and then get them all organized and ready to jump to a location. There's 50 minutes already, right? 60 minutes on its own.
I would love that to change in the future. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to have to from some perspectives, but I do think after that, you're probably looking at like an hour and a half, 2 hours on one of these things, maybe. Because you really gotta move, you gotta get people off and on ships onto the space station. Like there's gonna be downtime, I think, too.
Yeah.
That is a very valid point, because it is, especially in today's game, it is a very significant chunk of time just to get all the cats herded. I know, like in other games like EVE Online, they do kind of have some heads up, and they get everybody to try to position at a certain system. So before. What would be nice is if we get to a point where we do have base building, and we do wind up having bases where everybody is typically collected in one spot. I think that would help reduce that startup time. But yeah, I mean Space Painter's got a good point there. You really do have to have some setup time to get people in place.
Yeah,
no matter what you do.
And that's typical with even MMOs and raids. You have prep time, and you got a time to start. I mean, I think there's a famous story about how Henry Cavill almost missed his audition for Superman because he had a raid, and the call was during a raid, and he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do a raid rather than do the call," because he's a nerd. But I mean, yeah, that's how serious raids are in WoW. Like they take a lot of effort and time, and all those sorts of events are in other MMOs are like a job. Like EVE. A battle in EVE is a calculated, like months preparation time to go into do an operation for EVE. So, next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, "How do you feel about ballistics versus armor to damaging components?" What?
You know what? I can actually chime in on that because I am
Okay.
actually very confused. The way they originally pitched it before engineering had really come into the picture, it was always that energy weapons would be used to help get rid of the shields, and then ballistics would be used to penetrate into the hull and do damage, quote unquote. And it seemed like almost like they reversed that completely, when they first started with engineering, where they were saying that engineering weapons would be best suited at doing damage to the components. I don't know. I actually, so that is one thing I can say about engineering in general that I've found confusing on the weapons. I'm not so sure I understand completely why they wouldn't stick with the original paradigm where you use the energy weapons to help get the shields down so that your ballistics can do the physical damage and penetrate into the shield and penetrate into the ship and do the damage to the components into the hull. Is that how it works now?
I don't know how it works because my thought was that ballistics did more hull damage, but they were blocked by armor, and armor was easier to melt off by energy. So
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing with it.
yeah.
Okay.
But I agree that that's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
To me, it should be that armor is great defense against energy weapons because
Right.
what you're going to do, whereas your ballistics punch through armor like ballistics do in real, depending on the size of the ballistic.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive, so I kind of agree.
Yeah. I don't know the balance would be. All I know is that there needs to be a rock, paper, scissors sort of gameplay solution. And maybe that means energy shields block ballistics. That's fine. As long as there's some sort of balance to it. But we got a long way.
I think what it does diminish some of the damage from the ballistic.
Yeah, it slows it down.
shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna move right along because we've got a lot more questions done. Captain Jacaro asks, do you think that we are seeing now in 4.4 Live and 4.5 PTU is proof that CIG needs to stop internal testing to internal testing to death as much as this as much and ship it a little earlier? Basically, get it to working, shove it out, and then post it.
No. Screw that. I'm sorry for jumping in here, but that is like the big thing that caused them grief last year. That's why we're on this path right now. They were putting patches out before they were ready, and it was pissing people off and scaring them away. I'm glad that they're doing more time testing them and getting them into better shape before they put them in our hands. I think it would be a terrible idea to go back. Sorry. I jumped to the top of the list on that, but I feel passionately about it.
I think as well, like it depends on the change. So for me, I mean, we just talked about it during the podcast. Engineering is such a big change. Like your internal testing is barely going to scratch the surface. You just need to make sure the systems work, but all of the balancing for that, you kind of need to see what the player base do with it. And as I said, I think there are going to be other changes that are going to be similar. Things like Death of a Spaceman and insurances and stuff like that. You can internally test the systems, but players are going to break that. They're going to stretch it to the limit. They're going to find weird edge cases. I think there's only so much internal testing you can do for those things. I do agree that internal testing for the actual playability and workability of stuff is really important. I would not want to see a patch that is broken in the sense that there are crashes or you can't get in or the game is so laggy it doesn't work, but things that really you need to test the balance for, I don't see an alternative to saying you just got to throw that out there. What I hope they do is that they use PTU heavily for that. If they release 4.5 to live now, I think it's going to do a disservice to engineering because the people that aren't that engaged in engineering are going to see what a mess the balance is and say, oh, that's not for me. And engineering will take the blame rather than balance taking the blame. So I hope that they use the PTU for that. But I think there's a balance to be struck depending on what needs testing.
Yeah. I should just qualify what I said, by the way. I was referring to bugs. Balance, I agree with you, Forrester, should be done in the PTU at a broader scale.
All right. Starushi asks, question. Engineering.
I didn't get to answer that one.
Yeah, we didn't get
Tomato.
Space Tomato.
What's your thoughts?
I concur. No, I think their answer is the EPTU, the preview channel. They're still not using it, I think, how they should be. I think engineering probably should be in the preview channel for another quarter, but well, not another quarter, another patch cycle. But at the same time, engineering is one of those things that probably will never make progress if they don't get it to more people. So
Yeah.
I understand that. But when it comes to things like FPS scanning or even like the new ship scanning, maybe the new quantum travel version, like those things that you wouldn't want to get dropped into the game to break it, I think they could just have those in the EPTU, and the people who want to test those should be able to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big proponent of ditching the PTU system because it's based off of the Blizzard player test realm system. Because a lot of the folks who ended up setting up the PTU originally were from Blizzard, so they're just kind of taking what they knew. I think a more beta effect, experimental build, what they do on a lot of companies do for Steam, where you have a build you play with all of the new stuff in, and then players play with it and give feedback, but you can just always swap back and forth, so that when you actually push the patch, it's somewhat tested, but it's been tested for weeks or months rather than just like a couple of days, like it often is with this, because the patch always goes. The kind of what they were describing with the PTU, with the EPTU structure, where it's like, we're going to test it. Oh, it's not ready yet. We'll pull this off into its own branch. We'll keep testing it while we run, and then we'll put it back into the new PTU when we have a new PTU, and then we'll see if everything works, and we'll pull stuff out. So you always have something running in the background where you can test it, so that people can actually physically touch it. Because I think it's a big deal, is that if people physically touch a feature, they will feel better about that feature being developed, rather than just, where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's in the monthly report. Cool. I don't read. Where is it? You know?
Yeah. It's like the Satisfactory model. I loved how
Yeah.
they did it.
Yeah. Starushi asks, engineering, how would it work when the ship is in battle? You running around while it's moving, which means pinned to the floor. How will you put out fires, for example? This is kind of what I was talking about before. If you are running around the larger ships, you can't move fast enough to be able to black out. Only certain ships will have that ability, and at that point, it's up to the pilot. Pilots got to understand that they got damage control teams on board, and if those damage control teams are squished against the wall, blacking out, then they're not going to fixing the ship. So
Yeah.
people are saying gravity boots coming soon, but no, they removed that. Unless someone could tell me that they're bringing back gravity boots, because they removed that well early in the game, and it was, they said it wasn't coming back. So
I think it's also going to depend. I think if you are in a battle that you're smart about, you probably won't need to do in-combat repairs.
Mhm.
So for a lot of battles, you might want to fix things up after the fight has happened and you've already won. But if you are going in with an edge, there probably isn't going to be that much that you need to do during the battle. It's going to be those more close-run things where you're maybe biting off more than you can chew, that people are going to be running around. And I think it should feel a little bit chaotic. If you are running around the ship to fight fires and then, oh no, you've fallen over in the corridor, you have to get up and get there. Like, that adds drama for me.
yeah,
So
I agree.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
Anything else to add, y'all?
No, I think he's right. I think a lot of what people assume is going to be engineering is happening outside of combat rather than within it.
You've already taken damage.
We're talking.
You go fix the ship afterwards. You know, yeah.
It's also, I think maybe there's a little bit of pride and ego wrapped up in it, but a lot of people also assume that you have to win a battle or you die. And Star Citizen is coming up with a lot of solutions for fleeing and getting away from the battle, outlasting the other player. Quantum Boost is going to allow us to get the hell out of basically anywhere we want to, as long as we still have our systems up. So I don't think we're going to be left out in the open just taking random shots to our armor like people are expecting.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Blamsmith asks, could they have released engineering without fire to focus testing and bug fixing balance? No, because fire damages components as well. And so all you're doing is removing fire to add it back in and have the same problems down the road. It's a solution they're going to have to come up with a solution for the problem eventually, and it's already in the game. And from what I understand about how CIG works is, like, if it works and it's in the game and they think it's stable enough, you put it in. Not does this help us out? In fact, we've had that in the past where it's like, why is this feature in? Oh, because it was done. Not because it was important, but because it was done. It's only recently that we've actually had CIG like, oh, well, this ship is done, but the features aren't for that ship aren't done, so we're going to table it until those features are in so that we can release it. So, what do y'all think? Should they have released engineering without fire?
No.
I'm kind of curious why the question is asked, because is that some like an implication that fire is annoying or not?
They can be bug out because like you can have invisible fire.
Yeah. I think it is, a big component of engineering in general and fits the engineering trope. It's definitely, I can understand why somebody might think that they don't want it in there because it's maybe a little bit buggy, but I think the bugs are probably solvable, and the fire likely adds to the depth and character of, the destruction that you have to fight. Like to your point, it can damage components, and I think ultimately when it's ironed out and working the way they intended to, I think it will play a good positive role in constructing that story as to what your engineering role is like.
It's atmospheric as fuck. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Seeing smoke billowing out and hearing fire detected.
Yeah.
Fire
Yeah.
detected. Right. It's like that's
the alarms are very good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else to add, Ferrister?
No, I agree with that. I think you could say, you could have added it without, but I think it would have been an emptier experience. I think it's ready enough to be included as part of it. It's buggy, so are elevators. We still have plenty of those in the game. So, no, I'm happy to have it.
People wish we didn't.
So Del Enar asks, what are your expectations for Chris Roberts' yearly letter, hopium or otherwise?
It's always hopium.
I am going to lay out what the letter is likely going to be. It's going to be here's what the year was like, here's what we've done recently, and here's our plans for the future. There's plans for the future. He's going to set out exactly what is going to release first, and he's going to set out like a mini roadmap of, this feature's going to come in, this feature's going to come in, this feature's coming in, and then this feature's coming in. And we're going to do all of these hopefully by next year. And then the reality of it is that two and a half of those features, or 1.5 of those features, will be actually in by the end of next year, and we'll be talking about half and the rest of those features again in 2027. Because prove me wrong, Chris. Prove me wrong.
Please prove him wrong, Chris. God.
Yeah.
He gets better and better every year at not saying ridiculous things, and still it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a lot of optimism. Like once the Squadron 42 teams come back to the Star Citizen game, I think some of his timelines might be a little bit more realistic. But I'm sorry, Spaceman, go ahead.
No, that's all you, man. I think last year's was actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Except for
the only thing that was it was really off was the EPTU, which I think is why he's probably going to circle back around to that and focus more on it this year, because they can finally use it. Mm-hmm. Their whole focus at this point, I think, is going to be getting the crucial Star Citizen 1.0 features in and Squadron 42. So I think that's probably what the letter will mostly be about. What I hope he says is freaking tell us the average daily number count that you guys are always talking about getting higher or lower. I want to know how many people are playing.
Yeah. Ferrister?
I think you're also hopeful. I think it's going to be a very vague letter. It's going to be it's been a great year, and we've delivered a lot this year. You've got Nix in game, you've got engineering in game. We've come a long way. We had a great CitizenCon Direct where many of you engaged with us. And looking to the year ahead, we've already outlined that Squadron 42 is on the horizon and that we've got our road to 1.0. So thank you for your support. And I think it's going to be very,
very vague.
I expect.
Yeah.
I would want to see a Squadron release date, which says, by the way, we said 2026. We're actually going to do 2026. It's going to happen. No. I think it will just be a vagary, which kind of celebrates some of the milestones, reinforces some of the stuff that we already know is kind of future planned, but not really tell us anything.
Yeah.
Other than to say thank you for continuing to support the project.
I think that's going to be 90% of that. I still think that he'll have some, because Chris can never shut up. If someone came up to him and told him, here's what we're going to do, Chris will say it because he doesn't have a filter. So he'll just say whatever is being fed to him by the teams, and he'll just say it uncritically. So I agree, Ferrister, but I still think he's gonna say some stupid shit.
I think
Yeah.
if you asked him the question, definitely. But this is going to be a pre-prepared, published article on the website with the
Okay.
opportunity for people to say, "Oh, maybe don't say that,
Maybe
Chris."
don't say that, Chris. Yeah.
Have you read the other letters he's done?
Maybe that they've actually got a
I
muzzle
make a
on him
video
better.
on this letter every year, and this year I will not be fooled. Okay?
Well, here's the thing. The giant elephant in the room is that the truth is next year has the possibility to be unlike any year we have seen. Because if they actually come out with Squadron 42 and a finished game, like they said they were, which, definitely in question, that is going to be something that we're not used to. A real game that's commercially viable, that's out in the public, that works theoretically and is not buggy, a real completed game. That is a significant and literal game changer for everything.
Mhm.
And it will. I am very curious to see what this panel will look like 12 months from now, if Squadron 42 comes out,
That's a good question.
because it'll be a very different world.
Yeah. We got 10 minutes left, and we've got a lot of questions. I'm gonna try to kind of consolidate some of these questions. This is a really good one from Ian Wilson on YouTube, who asks, "Do you think the new Steam machine will be able to play Star Citizen and Squadron 42?"
Do we even know the specs for it?
I don't think we have the specs for it yet, but I would say yes, only because with the addition of Vulcan, it's not really going to increase the ceiling, but it's going to lower the floor in terms of accessibility for the game. And the more optimizations they do, the lower that floor is going to get.
I think it's not going to be a high-end PC,
No.
but it's not going to be a console either. And if Star Citizen should be played by a system that's in between those
Yeah.
brackets. I think that's kind of what the game is geared towards. And I really do believe that CIG is working on a console
we do have
version
this,
of Star Citizen.
the Steam
Squadron.
machine specs. Okay, let me look it up real quick.
It has 8
I think it's
gigs of
AMD
RAM.
graphics and processor. And from what I saw, yeah, it shouldn't have a big issue running Star Citizen.
It's got
Oh.
a
8 gigs of VRAM.
8 gigs of free
Yikes.
RAM. 16 gigabytes
Oh,
of
really?
DDR5 RAM, though.
You all need to go to £10.42 and ask him this question.
Yes, I was going to say, this is a £10 42 question.
Yeah.
By the way, £10, if you're watching, that's a great video idea right there.
Can it run Star Citizen?
Can it run Star Citizen? But yeah, the thing is that like I ran Star Citizen on 8 gigs of VRAM. You can run it. Doesn't run well, but you can run it.
Mm.
So. All right. Next question comes from. So I'll combine some questions because Maverick goes, when will we see combined stream with all 4 of you doing the same engineering gameplay, jump space style? And somebody else asked, like, can Star Citizen engineering compare to games like Jump Ship or Wildgate? And me and Tomato have literally played with the devs of Jump Ship. So we can say, I think we can firmly say that Jump Ship is a simplistic experience. It has some similarities to Star Citizen, fire being one of them. And like the replacement of parts or the fixing of parts is important. But I don't think we're going to see as much damage because Jump Ship, like shit lights on fire and gets damaged every 2 seconds in Jump Ship because it is like a requirement for a game. It's a gameplay loop. That's the whole concept. It's like someone is always on that engineering life to try to fix this.
Well, that's crazy, Paul. I heard nobody finds that fun.
Of course. It can be chaotic and it's a fun chaos, but I also think that that's a game that's played in increments of like 20 minutes to an hour versus Star Citizen, which is played for a much longer period. So I think you're going to see more tuning away from random fires and destructions all the time unless you're in a deep shit situation. So what do you think, Tomato? Because I know you've also played. Do you think how do you think it'll compare to like Jump Ship and Wild?
Well, I mean, you want to talk about casualness in Jump Space, or in Jump Space it was
Jump Space. Yeah.
It's literally, we're talking about getting up to the engineering terminal and standing up in Star Citizen, and you're going to get knocked around. In Jump Space, you can be on the outside of the ship during the dogfights while your pilot is doing all his maneuvers. So like, it's much less about grounding you in this difficult choose and pick your poison kind of situation, and it's more about just like creating a party situation where everyone feels busy. You can jump back and forth between things. There's not dedicated UIs for everything. It's just like all of it is very much focused on something you can pick up and play, basically. And like you said, in 20 minutes, even if you didn't know the game.
Yeah.
Star Citizen it's much more about a long-term maintenance. It's more about maintenance, I think, than it is about the excitement of what it is in Jump Space. That being said, can't wait to get together with you guys on
on an
the
engineering.
old Perseus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perseus is one of those perfect ones. I will say
I already fixed your Perseus once.
I think personally that there will be some emergency maintenance, but it'll be a lot more of we're already out of the weeds, we've already killed our enemies, we fix, or we're already dead, we fix, sort of thing. So it's a single player game. It should not have any bugs. What are we talking about?
I think it's talking about Squadron.
I think they're talking about Squadron. Yeah.
Yeah, build and play already destroyed Paul's Perseus once. He actually asked the question. It's like, well, is Paul going to put a bounty on my head? No. I just thought you were stream sniping to engage, to increase the content for me so I could do it, because I was like, yeah, it was literally testing engineering. This is the perfect time for it. Just happened to be a random set of situations. So that's why I was like, really, dude? You just tell me you want to do it. We could do that, you know. Captain Jacaro says, do you think that sometime next year they should increase claim timers? Yeah, we already talked about that in the previous ones. That's probably going to happen. It's just one of the consequences of a lot of things, including the new item system that they're barreling towards, because they kept bringing it up in the monthly reports. They're like, yep, we're setting things up for it now. So I think come hell or high, that might be the theme of this year. It's like this too will pass. It may pass like a fucking kidney stone, but it's gonna pass in terms of like feature content release. A lot of bandages being ripped off over the course of. I will be a very happy Paul if they're just ripping band-aids off and be like, here's your crafting, here's item system, here's the death of a spaceman, here's base building. I would be like, thank you.
Do it.
Just break shit and move fast, but we'll see. All right, we've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 9, but some of them are already like, do you think that a ship should explode at all? We already talked about that. How do you feel and a limit to active shield components of 2 at a time when some have 3 to 4? We already had an entire discussion of that with Ferrister, and I'm sure we don't want to rub that into the salt in the wounds with Ferrister for that. All right, here's a good one. Troublemaker asks, engineering is making have only one shield. Okay, never mind. Literally talking about shields. How do you feel about the fuses are the same price and cost from small to capital ship size? Would you want different sized fuses for different sized ships?
I think that would be a good idea. Why not? Well, maybe different quality.
I think no. I think keep fuses similar, but larger ships would just have more relay stations with more fuses in them, so that there's kind of more work to do. I think having different sizes of fuse would probably be quite a complication. You could use a turtle in a pinch.
So let me rephrase that. Not of different size. They should all be the same size, but some of them should be stronger than others. And it could be considered a form of leveling. So, for example, if you wanted to be able to overcharge some of your weapons a little bit more frequently, having a more durable fuse might be a good way to do that. But I don't know. It's just a thought. I don't know if there's like a lot of cons, to that
Yeah.
idea.
I like the idea. I like the idea of having crafted fuses as just different tiers of fuses. But that's not a different size. That's just like every ship could use that, and then you have like smaller ships that have like one fuse that you have the super duper fuse, and it works great. That's fine. But that was my response, was just like, crafting will solve this problem. But that's it's not a problem really. It's fine for what it is.
Right.
All right. I'm going to tackle this next question because it's asked. It's a question shaped just for me. Maximum KCTV asks, how long until we see mobile suits or Gundams launching out of like the Polaris hangar or mech bays? Never. We'll never see that because Chris Roberts doesn't like mechs. As much as I would love to have EVA Titan suits being able to go out and fight EVA, I think the ICTY and its ilk will probably be the most we get.
Maybe I don't know enough of what the detail is of a Gundam, but I thought like an ICTY was close to that.
A Gundam is the size of a 5-story building. And it's built almost exclusively, not exclusively, but it's built to fight in space.
Okay.
So it's like if you're flying around as like a mech in space, and there's lots of more stuff to it. You also fight on the ground, and they are fought on ground, but like they're huge. They're like massive machines. I'm sorry, not 5-story, 6-story. So yeah, 18 meters tall. They're like something like a if you took a I think like a cutlass and turned it up on itself in terms of height. Sierra doesn't like mechs. So I do think there is a spot for a ship that carries drop pods though, because people love drop pods. It is a good trope in science fiction. And if you sold a drop pod ship or drop pod modification for a ship like the A2, people would buy that ship just so they could do that.
Paul, I've got to get going.
All right, Betty.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Thank you, Sweet Tomato. I think
guys.
Why don't we just call that there?
Yes,
Because I think pretty much everything else here. So thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Radar Ranger, Space Tomato, and Fairister for showing up here. Make sure you check them all out. If you enjoy this live, check us out at twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/@the-captain's-table-podcast. We do this Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Would love to have you come join us live. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.